With the Roblox Doors Hotel Plus update out and about, this also means that lots of assumptions and facts are being spread all throughout the Doors community. But are some of these facts and myths actually true? Well, here's one for you. 99% of those who like and subscribe will become successful in life. Test it out yourself. Myth number 1, there are some people over on the L-Splash Discord server that ambush cannot spawn at door 2. Now, that probably used to be the case. I mean, we're right at door 2 right now. Let's see if ambush is going to spawn. I mean, obviously, he didn't spawn in that time. He does have a very low chance of doing so. But before the update, it was actually literally impossible in order to spawn an ambush without the use of hacks or exploits. But rather than playing the game 50,000 times in a row just to get ambushed at door 2, let's just go right to the Discord server for Doors. And as you guys can see on the results, many people have been saying that they found ambush on door 2. And there's even a video that does showcase this over on YouTube as well. Right within door 3, they're running into an ambush. Why is ambush even showing up before door 5 is beyond me. Now this could probably just be due to all the bugs that the game has been experiencing lately. Or maybe ambush is getting promoted so that he's going to be able to show up during more doors. But yeah, this myth is definitely busted. He can actually spawn in at door 2 if you're extremely unlucky. Myth number 2, people have also been saying that you cannot use the Crucifix, especially right on the entity Seek. I mean, try using the old Crucifix on Seek and see what happens. It never used to work at all, but then again, this was not the official Crucifix that the Doors developers have made. If we do actually, in fact, use the Crucifix on Seek and don't really get scared by the entity at all doing so, you can actually stop the entity for a couple of seconds as they get entangled by the chains thanks to the Crucifix powers. Now of course, this is only temporarily, it's not going to work for the whole entire time that you use the Crucifix on him. But if Seek is right behind your tail and you have the Crucifix as a last resort, you should probably use it in order to get yourself out of that situation. But nah, this myth is definitely busted. You can definitely use the Crucifix on Seek, especially if you get into quite a bind. Myth number 3, people are also saying that you cannot use the Crucifix on Figure, and I'm actually a part of that whole problem too. During our live update stream a couple days ago, we did try to use the Crucifix on Figure, and for some weird reason, nothing was really happening, which led me to believe that the Crucifix would not work on Figure. Well, turns out it actually does. If you get closer to the figure and you actually use the Crucifix, also noting you have to have the Crucifix before the mid-run shop at door 52, you can actually entangle the figure also for a couple of seconds, just like Seek, though it's not going to stop the figure for as long as Seek. Apparently we're just a little bit too far away from the entity when we tried doing it on stream, which makes sense. But again, this myth is definitely busted. Of course you can use the Crucifix on Figure if you so wish to do so, though good luck trying to find a Crucifix that early on in the game. Myth number 4, a lot of people on the Discord have also been saying that Halt doesn't spawn anymore and that he was removed from the game. This couldn't be any more farther from the truth. We did state a while ago that Halt used to have a 3% chance of spawning into the game and causing players to, well, halt in place for a couple moments, which is pretty annoying, especially for speedrunners. But after playing through the game a couple times, we have ran into Halt just once, but did change his mechanics in adding in a G instead of just his usual screen. And the most annoying part about the new Halt, you can't stand still for a second in order to progress. You actually have to walk backwards now for a little bit and then turn around and walk forwards again in order to play Halt as he was initially intended. But yes, this myth is busted, but his chances have been lowered all the way down to around 0.05% based on my calculations. Myth number 5, doors 90 through 99 are bugged and you cannot beat the game. This was actually true. believe it or not. During the release of the Hotel Plus update, so many people were playing Doors to the point where the servers were actually getting overloaded and the rooms towards the end of the game would often break. The biggest issue to this were that some of the doors would actually not even spawn in at all, and the doors would actually be replaced with the opening of the void, which you pretty much soft lock at that point in the game. Splash, the lead developer for Roblox Doors, also took notice of this within the Discord server, and they said that they did implement a couple of patches and fixes for this same issue, but apparently it's still happening within the community for some unknown reason. I mean, just imagine trying to get to door 90 after going through most of the game, only to find out that you can't even get to the ending due to a game-breaking bug. That's pretty bad. Now, as of now, this myth is confirmed. It's still a little bit buggy for some players, but hopefully soon it will be busted, especially once they find a proper fix for it. Myth number 6, there is a major secret at room 60. Now this one is actually true. Right behind this specific cabinet, especially when you're inside one of those disheveled rooms with everything being torn apart, there's actually a little hallway that leads into a mini maze, which also leads to a hidden and locked gate that houses a gold door locked by 2 lockpicks and a skeleton key lock. Now, this door would actually teleport you to another dimension, which leads you to another mini game within Doors. Now, this mini game is not really mini because there's over 1,000 rooms within this game. But alas, it does lead to this myth being confirmed. There is a major secret within door 60. Now time for myth number 7. You can't spawn A60 within Doors. Okay, so A60 used to not be able to be spawned into Doors, but now it's definitely a different story. Now yes, while only the developers were able to spawn in A60 within the game legitimately, as we've seen on Creecraft's livestream a long time ago at this point, hackers are also able to spawn in these entities, especially if they are using exploits. But believe it or not, especially if you do end up going through that gold door dimensional room, if you can get all the way up to door A-60, you are actually going to be able to run into A60, the entity himself, which does lead to this myth being busted. You can actually spawn in A60, especially if you utilize that big secret. Myth number 8, you can use the Crucifix on A60 and temporarily trap him. Let's do a little bit of thinking on this one. It honestly does make sense if you talk about it, though there's one thing that is weird about that. Especially once you've completed that deep secret, and if you have a crucifix on hand, if you try to pull it out, the game will say that this crucifix is a bit lighter than before, which was the first red flag. It probably doesn't have all the power that a normal crucifix within the normal Doors dimension has, which is probably why it feels a bit lighter. It's just in a much more weakened state, which means it's not really going to be able to do much against more powerful entities such as A60, for example. Also, if you just ended up trying to use it on the entity itself, nothing actually happens, and you still get disintegrated into mini pieces. So this myth is unfortunately busted. It would have been nice in order to use some type of crucifix against A60, especially if you want to try to get to room 1000, but they had to make it hard somehow. Myth number 9. There's only 2 new entities in the Doors update. Now, at first, if you're looking at the Doors game itself, it makes sense why a lot of people think that there's only 2 new entities within the update. I mean, first of all, you do have Jeff, the helpful and peaceful entity running the shop, and also Dupe, who loves to play tricks on the players, especially when it comes to the door labels. But players are often forgetting about this new entity that pops up, especially if you're running behind from the group. Now, Glitch used to be the entity that would bring you back towards the group again, but now it's a different entity for some unknown reason. And you also gotta add in a 60, a 90, and also a 20 as well. Those are all confirmed new entities, especially within the room's secret mode. But that also doesn't cover the fact that there might be even more entities within that game, especially if there's gonna be over 1,000 rooms within the mode. But alas, this myth is definitely busted as well. There's a lot more than 2 entities being added in this update. And myth number 10, the game ended up getting harder with the update. Now, it's true that the game did see some difficulty increases throughout the gameplay. One of them is definitely rooms 90 through 99, especially with Rush spawning in a lot more frequently, and especially with the electrical puzzle minigame, which actually ended up getting a huge boost in the difficulty department, as the developers are forcing players to find 10 buttons before completing the puzzle. But in many ways, the game actually got quite a bit more easier, especially when it comes to its gameplay. The Seek Chase is a big example of this, as the chase is now quite a bit slower than what it used to be before. This makes it a lot more easier for newer players in order to navigate through the chase sequence. And also, with the addition of the Crucifix and other items as well, that is going to make the game a lot more easier, especially during those types of scenarios. So I would have to say that this myth is actually inconclusive. The update did make the game harder, but in turn, it did make the game a bit easier as well. But what other myths have you guys ran into during the update? Let us know down below, and take care.